Hey everyone, and welcome back to my channel. I'm Mary, and today I'm going to be talking to you about all of the mistakes I made when I was solo traveling around Europe for 3 months last year between September and December. Even though I had prepared rigorously for this trip, at least 3 months in advance, I was super excited. It was my first ever solo trip, besides the 4 days that I spent in Ubud in Bali alone. I don't really count that, but it was definitely a taster as to what solo travel would be like, and it definitely intrigued me, but nothing could have prepared me for life. Life just happens. You can prepare all you want, but life will just laugh and tell you you didn't prepare enough. So I'm hoping that by sharing these stories, you guys won't make the same mistakes as I did. And because this video is gonna be super long, I'm just gonna tell you what I'm gonna be talking to you about. So I was robbed 460 pounds of cash. I had to sleep in a toilet one night. I was kicked out of a hostel, and my card was skimmed, all in the same month. So September last year was a really rough month for me because I was already anxious enough, this being my first ever solo trip, but having all of those things happen to me in the first few weeks was definitely hard, but it was all smooth sailing from after my card was skimmed. So when I first landed, I landed in Athens, Greece. The big mistake was letting my guard down, and this is how I got 460 pounds worth of cash stolen from me. So the Athens hostel scene isn't completely developed yet. The good hostels get snatched up really fast, so obviously I didn't know that. I didn't book my hostel in advance. When I landed in Athens is when I attempted to book a hostel in Athens, and I ended up trying to get my SIM to work in the middle of the street, which was a really stupid idea because I have a phone wallet, so I had to take that phone wallet out, had all my cards in it, and I ended up leaving my phone wallet somewhere in the streets of Athens. I was a traffic light away when I realized this. Luckily, I was with a really nice girl who ran with me with my luggage to try and get my phone wallet back, and we found it on time, but that is a very lucky story. So I absolutely recommend, if you're going to be inserting your SIM card, do it at a safe place. Do it somewhere where you're not in the middle of the streets. So anyway, I got to my hostel, and it was a hostel that had bed bugs in it. And I met 2 really lovely girls. One of them in particular came across as really trustworthy to me. She was telling me about all of her horror stories of being robbed, and she even offered me her spare SIM card because my SIM card that I pre-bought in Australia wasn't working. It wasn't until 2 or 3 days later that I actually got it to work, and that was through communication on Facebook Messenger with the company. It was a huge rigmarole, so make sure you get your SIM card once you are in the said country, and then just keep recharging your SIM card. Anyway, she was really nice. I let my guard down around her. I didn't really bother to lock my luggage when I was in Athens because I was in a room with her. I can't say if it was that girl that was giving me all those tips and to stay vigilant, and I have absolutely no proof of that. My point in telling this story is that do not let your guard down, even around people who seem to be super trustworthy. I found out a couple of days later, 4 days later specifically, that my cash was missing from my luggage. Where was I when I discovered this? I was in a little island called Ios, which is near Mykonos, and the island, it wasn't a busy island at all. I was one of 2 people who was occupying a room in the hostel that I was staying at. I had a private room to myself. I went out for a whole day, and when I came back, the window was open. It was always open because the aircon wasn't working and my luggage wasn't locked. I let my guard down because I had a very private room. There was hardly anyone in the island of Ios because by that point it was September the 8th or the 9th, and Ios is a little bit of a ghost town. My cash inside my luggage was super hard to find. It wasn't out there, it was hidden. Didn't have proof that I purchased that cash, and I didn't log it in my original insurance because my mother gave me that cash when she went to London a couple of years ago. Obviously I couldn't control that situation, but if you are withdrawing cash, keep your receipt, make sure you log it in your insurance, and be extra vigilant. I had a bike lock with me that I packed. I did not bother to tie it onto my bed. That's something I started to do after my cash got stolen. And absolutely never, ever, ever, no matter if you have a private room, no matter if the people around you seem really nice, don't leave your luggage unlocked. Always, always, always keep it locked, no matter what. I learnt that the hard way. The next horror story involves a toilet and me sleeping in that said toilet in Athens. And this happened because I was flying from Santorini to Athens. I landed at around 1 a.m. in the morning, and it was the 13th of September in the morning, a.m. So I had booked a place. I booked it for the 13th because when I landed, it was the 13th. It was 1:30 a.m. in the morning on the 13th. What I should have done was book a hostel or an apartment or whatever else on the 12th of September and just adjusted my check-in time to be 1 to 2:30 a.m. And so I called the hostel and I was like, what's going on? My taxi hasn't arrived yet, because I had organized a taxi with these people too. And they told me, oh yeah, you organized it for tomorrow. Aren't you checking in tomorrow? I'm like, what do you mean tomorrow? Tomorrow is today, it's the 13th. So anyway, I was freaking out because everywhere I was trying to look was booked out. I couldn't find a place to sleep. I had just been robbed, remember? I had just been robbed a few days prior to that, and I was terrified of sleeping out just in public, I guess. I really, really needed, for my own peace of mind, a locked cubicle. And where could I find a locked cubicle? In the girls' bathrooms. So I ended up sleeping in the girls' bathrooms, and I have footage of this from my Instagram story. That was probably the worst place I've ever slept in my whole life, but I did manage to get 2 hours of sleep. I was extremely tired the next day, and I kept being interrupted by the cleaner. Every 1 hour she was like cleaning the bathroom, so I was constantly interrupted. There was music playing, and I can't sleep with music. So yeah, it was a mistake that I will never repeat again because of that specific traumatic ordeal. The next story involves a crazy manager and a very scared girl, me. So here it goes. Around mid-September, I flew to Dubrovnik. And of course, you guys know I was super excited to fly into Dubrovnik because a lot of the Game of Thrones scenes that you see in King's Landing was filmed in Dubrovnik. I was stoked to be there, and I was meant to spend a whole week in Croatia, but I cut it short to 5 days because I had a kind of a bad experience. So I arrived at this hostel at around 3 or 4 p.m. and in Croatia they prefer cash to paying with your card, and they don't have euros. I had plenty of euros, but I didn't have enough kunas. So I said to the receptionist, I don't have enough kunas, can I stay for 2 nights? So tonight and then tomorrow night, is that okay? And then I'll pay with kunas tomorrow morning. The guy at the reception said, yes, that's completely fine. You can pay in kunas for your second night tomorrow. So I was like, great, sweet, I will definitely do that. The next morning, I got up at 6:20 a.m. because I had a day trip to Bosnia, and no one was at reception because apparently reception opens at 8. So I was like, okay, that's fine, I'll pay with kunas when I get back from my day trip. Mind you, Bosnia doesn't have free data because it's not a part of the EU, so I didn't have any data. The only time I had data was when I was at this restaurant that I was eating lunch at, and I managed to connect to the Wi-Fi there. The Wi-Fi signal was really, really weak. Once I was at the restaurant, I started getting these text messages saying that, oh, what's going on? We've got all your stuff. Are you here to collect your stuff? And I was super confused because I obviously spoke to the guy at reception yesterday. He said it was fine for me to stay 2 nights and to pay tomorrow. So I communicated that. I was really confused, quite upset and stressed out because I wasn't gonna have a place to sleep that night. I just slept in a toilet and I didn't want to have to sleep in a toilet again. I said to the management, okay, that's fine. Can you help me out? Can you help me book a place so that I have somewhere to sleep? And they were nice enough to do that. But I also said, make sure all of my stuff is safe. My charger, my underwear, my clothes, make sure everything is safe. And she was like, yeah, that's fine. The cleaners put all of your stuff together and away. I was like, great, that's perfect. I got to the hostel and that was not the case. my very expensive adapter, which had 2 places to connect your devices to, was missing. It was stolen. So when I received the text messages at around 10 a.m. that day, which was when checkout was, that's when the lady told me the cleaner had moved all my things. I asked the lady, you know, you guys told me all of my stuff was together, but now I see that it's not. This is really, really terrible service. You guys told me it was okay for me to stay another night. Now it's not okay. Now my stuff is stolen and I desperately need to have my phone charged. It's almost about to run out. Can you guys compensate me on a charger? And she was like, absolutely not. Basically putting all of the blame on me and insinuating that I'd made up this whole thing just so I could get a free night at her hostel, which was absolutely ridiculous. Fine, if I can't get compensation for my very expensive adapter, I'd like a refund for the night that I stayed, because that is absolutely poor customer service that I was experiencing. She got so angry at me and she was like, you need to send an email. And I was like, but you're the manager, can't I sort it out with you right now? I don't even know where to begin to try and find an Australian adapter. Would you know where? She was like, no, I don't know where it is. I remember when I was in Japan and we needed to find an Australian to Japanese adapter, it took us a few days to find a shop that actually had one. When we ended up finding one, it was just a shitty one that only had 1 socket. Based on that situation, I was freaking out that I would not be able to charge my phone, and I relied on my phone heavily on navigation, booking, everything I was relying on my phone for. And I was like, well look, I'm not staying until I get my charger back or some form of compensation. And she was like, no, you need to get out of my hostel. And mind you, I was not yelling. I'm not a person who likes confrontation. I never confront people. She kicked me out of her hostel, and then when I got to the hostel that she had organized for me, they charged me extra. So she called those people who she was friends with and she made them charge me extra. So it was really, really terrible customer service. But in saying that, I did learn a huge lesson from that situation. Choose your battles. In the end, when I got to the second hostel, the staff there helped me find a tech store that didn't have an Australian adapter, and it wasn't as high-tech as the one that I had, but it was an international adapter. The people at the second hostel were really, really nice. After I published my review recounting the entire situation, the manager sent me a really threatening text message that I felt really, really uncomfortable with. And this was even after I had apologized to her for the entire ordeal. My takeaway from that entire situation is that not every country has the same customer service standards as the country that you are used to. Anyway, needless to say, that situation did not need to happen. It wasn't really worth it in the end. It wasn't worth questioning their service about. The next story, it happened in Milan, or so I think, because I can't really prove when exactly my card was skimmed, but I do recall inserting my card into a train ticket machine, and then the next day 430 euros was taken from my bank card. Again, I can't prove that it was that train ticket machine because my friend that I was traveling to Lake Como with also inserted her card into that same train ticket machine and she didn't get skimmed. What is more likely to have happened is my card was skimmed from afar when I took my card out. So the day that I realized that my card was skimmed, it was the day that I was checking out of the hostel I was staying at. I got a notification on my phone that around 430 euros had been taken from my account. I immediately freak out because I did not book anything that was worth that amount of money. My daily expenses were about 30 euros per day. So for me, I immediately freaked out. I had a Flixbus to catch at 11 a.m. to Pisa, and it was around 9 a.m. I was having breakfast that I discovered what had happened. I was trying to reach my bank, which was Citibank Australia. Sub tip, don't get a global currency card from Citibank Australia or any of those banks. One, they're going to give you not the best rates, and two, when you're trying to contact them, they're just really hard to reach, and they were not helpful at all. I got my card skimmed in September, the 26th of September 2019, and they said that it would sort it out for me in 8 weeks. And when I arrived back to Australia in December, the 2nd or 3rd, I still hadn't received my money back, and it took another 2 months to to get my money back. So all up, it took 4 months to get my money back. Instead, what I recommend to do is get a global card from either Revolut or TransferWise. So anyways, I couldn't reach them. I was running late for my Flixbus. I ran and ran and ran. I caught the tram. I got off the tram, and there are steps to the tram. Because I was in such a rush, I actually fell off the steps, and my entire body weight and my luggage fell on my right ankle. This is my foot, and it twisted completely. And I didn't know this at the time, but that ankle would be a problem for me for the next 2 months. It did not heal. Anytime I jumped or ran, it would flame up again. Anyway, once I got to Pisa, I had to spend 2 nights there, which you really don't need 2 nights in Pisa. You just need a few hours in Pisa, but I was grateful to lay low in Pisa, just to heal my foot. I ended up calling my bank with the help of my family, found the right number for me because there are so many different numbers you can call, and I was finally able to reach them. I cashed out 500 and I guarded that money with my absolute life, because that money would last me the 2 weeks that I was in Italy for. Luckily, I also brought my brother's global currency card, which had some money on it as well. I think I had around 200 euros in that card. Once I cashed out that money, I cancelled my global currency card straight away, and I ordered a new one to come to my house, the one that I'm currently living at in Australia. That card took 2 weeks to arrive, and when it finally did arrive, I got my family to help me set up Apple Pay with my new card. So I no longer had to use my brother's card unless I needed to cash out. So what I would do, and it was a huge rigmarole, I had to add my brother's card onto my Citibank online bank transfers as a safe card or something like that, and I had to insert my Australian SIM card, verify with the OTP. So anytime I needed cash, I had to go through that process. So I googled how to protect my card because I didn't want my brother's card to get skimmed. I wrapped that card in aluminium foil, so I just bought foil at the supermarkets, and I wrapped my card every single time with foil. It was weird. I felt super weird, but it definitely helped because I didn't get skimmed again. And then once I got to Australia, I invested in a few things that will help me in the future. So these all have RFID and NFC protection. So this is where I can put my cards. This also has RFID and NFC protection. I can wrap this around my body. I got a card shield, so what I can do is I can slip this in and add some of my cards. Well, one card on this side and another card on this side, so that my cards are protected as well. And then I also got a bigger wallet as well, which has RFID and NFC protection. So I am well and truly prepared for the next time that I do go overseas, which I don't even know when that's gonna be, but I don't really want to think about that. But anyways, those were my top mistakes that I made when I was traveling overseas solo for 3 months in Europe. I hope that they don't ever happen to you. I hope your cash never gets stolen. I hope your card never gets skimmed. I hope you never have to sleep in a toilet. And I hope you never get kicked out from a hostel. Because I've been talking a lot. So with that said, I'm going to wrap this video up. I hope that you guys found it helpful. Give this video a like and leave me a comment on where you want to travel to next once this travel ban is over. I know I want to travel to the Philippines, Cambodia, Laos, and Vietnam. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye!